All right, we're live. Okay. So I was explaining that when you design a web page, the organization within Photoshop is very, very important because especially if you're going to get into several pages where you're going to make lots of modifications and changes, the more methodical you can be about the structure and the organization, the better off you are because you're going to end up with tons and tons and tons of different layers and perhaps folders and files that will be difficult to change. And when you change one, it may change it. When you change one graphic, it might change it not only for that particular shot or web page layout, but also for the other subsequent pages within that folder. There's lots of ways to do it. I'm just going to show you one. In this circumstance, I created a folder called Home Page, which is made up of all of these different layers. And the layers are built into folders. The top structure is all the stuff that I would use to kind of contain the site. So this is going to be my background image, anything that's structural that won't change in the site, kind of the foundation. The logo up at the top, left navigation, those would be the global navigators that would always stay there. My hero, my welcome statement, and that welcome area where you can see it actually brought in another bar and a graphic there. This bottom callout area, my footer, and my right promo area. Now this is old stuff, its designs have changed and there's some problems with it, but I threw this together quickly just to show you how I would do this kind of a project. From here, if I'm going to make a secondary page, I have two options. I could copy this one that's called Home Page, call this secondary, turn off my home page and make my changes here if I like. Works great, should be no problem, but one of the inefficiencies of that is if once I get designing I decide, you know what, I really don't like my logo here at the top where it is, I want to move it to the center. Well, I would have to change it now on both the home page folder and this folder. So one thing that I prefer to do is I'll usually have a layer called like Site, and I will keep the top structure, the logo, the left navigation, and perhaps the hero area. Let's say that's the exact same positioning on every page. So I'll keep those where they're at. And then the welcome area, the bottom call out, footer will keep the same, but the right promos, let's move that one up. Those are all about the home page. So I can link those together by holding shift and clicking them, going to new layer, actually new group from layers, and I'll call this home page. And now there's my home page, so I can turn that on and off. Now I could make another folder called secondary page, and I could start to design in that and just include those things in the middle here. So if later on I decided to make a structural change, all my pages would have the same exact structural change without having to repeat it. And then when I export these images as JPEGs or slices or however I do it for my programmer, I've got the exact same calibrated, registered, perfect registration. It's all dialed in and it should be much, much easier. So think of those things as you're doing it. I'll usually color code them as well. So for instance, home page, I make this one, if I go to group properties, I make that red, and all I'm doing is control clicking the folder and going to group properties. Secondary page, make it blue. And the reason why I do that is then as I look at the structure, I just look for the colored ones, and that tells me just quickly which ones are pages, and the other ones I know are structural. And I can even put those in other folders, and you can see how it goes. Better organized you are with your websites, the better off you're going to be in the long run. Go ahead and close that. I have included, and these are old, but some Photoshop documents that have some miscellaneous buttons. You can tell these are way old. And some icons. Now if you just do some searching on the web, you're going to find tons of resources for this kind of stuff, especially if you're looking to do like apps or anything for the Apple world. There are PSDs that people have created, and they've put all the little icons and shadows and buttons and stuff that you can reuse. I throw these on here because these are all made with layer styles, and so you can always copy and paste those styles later on for other uses. And even though these look like garbage, the styles are actually pretty good if they're repurposed and used in the appropriate way. I've also put some miscellaneous icons. These are little icons that you see on websites, home buttons, magnifying glasses, and stuff like this. You can find better stuff online, again, for free, but a lot of the time you don't want to have to recreate those from scratch. So there's ones that I'll use on every site that I make that are just, you know, things I've either designed or found a long time ago. So those are some resources for you. This was part of a lecture I had a couple years ago. I just left it in here. This is kind of a cool layer style, this brass example. You're welcome to open up that in Photoshop. And, oh, you know what? I gave you the one that doesn't have the layer style. It should, let me see if this one has it. I can redistribute it. Yeah. It should come out like that. And why I throw that on there is just, again, layer styles in Photoshop when you're doing web design are very, very effective, and they're great ways to create texture and dimension in your site, and also kind of give you some thematic elements. So I'll pass that along to you when we're done, if you guys remind me. All right. So I just want to jump into how I would build a site if you gave me an example today. This will be pretty rudimentary and a little bit plain, just because we're dealing with time constraints here. But I want to show you a good way to start. So this one you won't work along with me because I have some copyrighted material, but you're welcome to take notes. I'm going to pretend that I'm going to work on a new website for iFrogs. And there's a couple ways I can start. We talked about the parameters or the physical dimensions of the site and what they needed to be. We can remember that in our head, the 1024 by 768 rule, but sometimes that doesn't apply straight across because we also have like browsers of different sizes that have perhaps more or less graphics, or they have graphics that more or less eat up part of that 1024, 768 or the header or footer or sides. So one thing I like to do, and I put this in your folder, is I like to just get a screenshot of a website that's really popular and then kind of trace over the top of it for a couple reasons. This one I just grabbed before class. I open it up in Photoshop and it's Apple's website. There it is. There it is at 100%. So if I look at this site here, this shows me in Safari how much real estate they're using. And I'm guessing that this space here and this space here are areas that if they were cut off, wouldn't be a big deal. So it's really their background. And it looks like their fold goes to about here for a screen that's optimized or a larger screen, but they probably don't care if somebody only sees, mouse is acting funny. If somebody only sees, anyways, just underneath the iPad here. So if I look at this, one thing that I'd like to do if I was creating a site for somebody else is I'd like to write the name of the company up here. So I could quickly get my marquee tool. I'm just going to hold down Apple T, just copy over the top of that, and then I could type in this case, we were doing something for iFrogs. Let's see. So I can type in the URL. It looks like the all caps is turned on. So I'll come over here and see if I can get rid of that. And I'll change my font just to Arial. And I'll do regular. And I'll pull up the kerning just a little bit. And I'll actually just take the opacity down a hair. So when I present this website to my client, I want to present it with a browser up at the top. I did that by just doing a screen capture of an existing browser, and then I put the name of their website up here, which is just a nice finishing touch.
Sorry, that covering their text and putting yours, how did you do that? Just like...
So what I did is I just came over here. You can just draw a square and fill it with white, but they have a teeny bit of shadow here. Do you see that? So instead of having to replicate it, I just made a selection of it. And because I was on the background layer,
Mhm.
I can click and Apple T it and just stretch it out.
Oh,
So that's just a trick.
so I'll carry on that.
Yeah, basically just kind of smears it.
Thanks.
All right, then from here, I'll usually do a Command R, so my rulers come up, and I'll draw in the guides. So I can say, that's my maximum width right there and right there, and probably the fold line for them. Let's just say it's at the tip of the iPad. So all my important information needs to fall within these guides. Cool? Now I don't need the Mac stuff anymore, so I'm just going to go ahead, or the Apple stuff, and draw a big rectangle marquee over all of that. And then I'll go ahead and fill it with white. I'll get my white paint bucket. Why isn't it filling? Oops, there we go. All right, so I have basically a shell. If I was, to back out on it, there's a shell for where my website is going to live. I'm going to try to keep everything important within these blue lines here. Then I need to assemble all of the pieces that will be part of this site. So I've done that. I've given myself a logo. This is the iFrogs logo as a transparent ping. I've got a bunch of pictures of people and of products. And then I went out and found just randomly a bunch of websites and thought that we could just grab parts and pieces of the design and kind of retool them and repurpose them for this new iFrog site. So this is the one I thought that might work. This shows you a close-up of the header, and then there's the actual site. This is a template that somebody could buy for 66 bucks, or if they want to buy it and own it outright, $2,900. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this, pull it into Photoshop. I think I found that on templatemonster.com, and I for sure don't want to steal it or anything, but I could be inspired by it by getting my marquee tool, dragging it around this site here. It's going to be small and really blurry, but if I pull it over, click OK, and then reposition this within the bounds of those blue lines, it'll give me a great start for my website. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in and say, all right, is this how I want my website to look? And I might say, I don't need this extra space. I'm going to draw a marquee and delete it. Zoom it up a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull the opacity back on this a little bit. So it's just kind of ghosted back there. And then I'm going to start building a website on top of this and see what turns out. I've also got some other sites that I can use as reference that I might like parts and pieces to. There's, let's see. My keyboard up here always lags. This is kind of cool. That's kind of cool. So I'm going to come back to some of these. I'm going to rough out my site first, but come back to these and see if there's any parts or pieces that I like. I've already seen that one before. So I'm going to grab the iFrogs white logo, open it up in Photoshop. It's a ping, which allows me to save transparency. So I'll go ahead and drag that over. Click OK. And then I will do a Command T to make it small. And I don't want to make it as small as it's going to be just yet. So I'll just go ahead and execute it. And I'm going to put it in the same kind of a thing they have here. So I'll just do it the quick and dirty way, and that is to grab my Polygon Lasso tool. And I'm going to make my arrow thing a little bit bigger. So I'm going to click, hold down Shift, click, click. And I'm not doing it precisely. You can see it's actually off quite a bit. That's fine. And I'm going to click a new layer, drag it below, and I'm going to fill it with a dark gray color. And then I'll go ahead and grab my iFrogs logo, and drag it on top, Command T, resize it, I'll throw it into that space. Now I'm not loving this. Looks like I kind of screwed it up, right? So I'm going to go ahead and chop it off. And I'm going to do maybe like a little arrow that's green like the frog there. And I'm just making this up as I go. So if it turns out to be junk, I apologize. So I'm going to zoom in. And I could make a square and then turn it on its side. And that would make a perfect triangle, right? They don't have to draw as well. Put it behind Command T. All right. Now if I want to do a line like they have there, draw another box. I can come and trim it or resize it if it's not perfect. And let's make this one a lighter gray. And I'll go ahead and fill it in. And then it needs to go back behind the green. And at this point, I might want to start labeling these. So I might double click and put light, gray bar, green arrow, dark gray box, logo. All right. I'll come back to this and make it look better. I'm just going to rough it in. They've got a bunch of links here, so I'm going to add some links. Just going to get my type tool, and I'll do it all caps, and I'll type out home. And we'll do it in a different font. Let's do it in the Myriad, because that's the Apple font. Myriad Pro, semi-bold. And I'm going to go ahead and push it out a little bit and make it the same dark gray color. And I'll put that one there. And to make it easy on myself, if I double click it and change the justification to center and then move it over, now when I move the other ones in position, if they're longer or shorter, they'll resize themselves within these boxes. So I'm going to hold down my Option key and my Shift key, pull it over. I'll try to just visually center it within those bars or lines. I'm just going to do it to all of these. Alright, so the first one's home, the second one will say about us. Oops, all caps. The third one, products, or predict, whatever that says. Products. Man, when the pressure is on, I suck. Thank you. Products, we'll say social or social media. We'll say cart, and the last one will say contact us. All right. Then there's some lines here, so I'm gonna go ahead and get my line tool. It's at 1 pixel, which should be fine. I want to make sure though it's a raster image. Drawing a line, another line, yet another line, another line, and another line. All right. I'm going to go ahead and just turn off the background for a minute so we can just see what we have. And I may want to do some organization. All these lines I could put in a folder called lines, so they kind of get out of my way. All these could be links. And I better spell it right. All right. Okay, so what do we do next? Let's turn this one back on and see what they've got. They've got a big lifestyle picture here. What if we were to do ours differently? What if we were to pull ours over here and have it kind of intrude into this this gray box, and maybe take some advice from that other site that I was checking on. Like that, how they have like that white thing come up and some little arrows. So let's find a picture and do that. Come over here to people. Let's see if we have anything here that's decent. Got kid, kid, kid. That's kind of a cool one. So I'm going to open that one up. And I'll pull it to the side, drag it over. Okay. Really big Apple T. I can't even see the corner, so I'm just going to type up here 20 by 20. Zoom it down. Pull it over here. And that one that we saw on the other side had a white outline around it. So if I go to my FX and I go stroke, thank you. And I do white, and I put it on the inside so it's not curvy. Let's pull it up a little bit.
What do you mean by not curvy?
So if I position it on the outside, you see that corner there? It's like tracing your hand. It gets dumber or it gets less detailed because you're running on the outside. Illustrator doesn't do that, but Photoshop does. So I'm going to go on the inside there. And then this kind of drops down low. I don't need all this information. So what if I came in here and drew out a rectangle and did a crop? Just did a mask. All right. What I'm going to do first with this, just to keep you guys kind of attuned, is I'm going to rough this out. So where we can put some details and make this dynamic and look cool, we'll save that for the end. I'm just trying to get some positioning. If I want this to be an image that can kind of scroll through, like, you know, several versions or several images, I want to maybe have some of those little scroll marks. So I'm going to draw a little circle, fill it with white, and I'll cut it. And then I'll copy it to the other side. And these are going to be hard to see until I start making some other changes. And I'm going to go Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. And then I can put some little arrows there. I'm just going to get my type tool, and I think it's a shift. Yep. And I can drag the other one, and I can go shift, comma. All right. Now I've got a bunch of other stuff that can go down here. Because I'm selling product, maybe it would be nice for me to have maybe a welcome statement or some information right here, and then some product listed out here in a couple columns. So let me go grab some product. Let's grab a pair of headphones. Let's grab those ones. And I'm going to go ahead and pull them over. They'll be really big, I think. Yep. Command T. Go 15%, 15%. And I'll zoom it down. And I'll put it right there. And then let me get a case. See if I have any cases in here. Let's just grab that one, drag it over, Command T, 15, 15, take it down. All right. So we'll just say that there's a couple products. I'll move this one over just a bit, and then we can put some descriptions next to. Then we could put kind of a welcome statement and maybe some buttons over here. I'm going to go ahead and type out the word welcome. And I'm going to do it in a little more sleek font. I'm going to use Helvetica. So all my navigation is going to say in that Myriad Pro, but my titles or my headlines will be in this Helvetica New Ultralight. And I'll change it to black because that's a font that doesn't show up really well. And I'll make it big. Okay, I need just a bunch of text so I can start lining things out. So I'm going to go to the web and I'm going to do a search for some fake text. And the standard is Latin. And if you type in lorem ipsum, there's like a little lorem ipsum generator. And this is just garbage text that you can use as filler when you're making a design. I just hit generate and then I copy some. Then I can come over here, get my type tool, drag out a column. We'll say it just goes to there for right now. And we will paste it. And it looks like it's all jumbled together, so I'm going to change it. This is my content to Arial, regular, good kerning, good leading. Take it smaller. We'll go 10, too small. 11, that might be too small, 12, right justification, and I'll go ahead and pull it out a little bit using my leading. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn that background off because it's just driving me nuts at this point. Okay, so I'm starting to get a little bit of a page design. I'm going to come over here and move this gray bar a little bit because if you remember, if you look at the other side, we have a little bit of a space here to here. Looks like I'm not even now. There we go. And I'm going to fake in a background. I'm just going to do a solid color background. And so I'll go ahead and drag out a box. And I'll fill it with a color. Let's do a dark gray. And I'll copy it over to the other side. And do I need to make it a little bit bigger? No, it looks good. Okay. I'll zoom back out on it. And let's see what else I need to do. I need to get some descriptions here. This welcome I'm not in love with. So I'm going to go back to it. And I'm going to try to make it medium. Pull it together a little bit. Just leave it like that for now. I'm going to put a little bit of a gradient here just to give myself some more dimension. So I will get a box for my gradient to live in. And I'll move it up just a hair. Click a new layer. I'll just start with that dark gray color and see what happens. Now that needs to go really far down in my priorities here, so it's not covering up more important things. And then I'll go ahead and pull the opacity back on that so it's a little more subtle. Now it's interacting with that gray bar, which I'm not in love with, so I'll come back with a little bit of help on that. But it does allow me to see these a little better. Again, the word welcome's driving me crazy. And one thing about this block of text that I do not like is it's so big, so I'm going to bust out a paragraph there. And then I'm going to grab that block of text, pull it over, oops, make a copy of it, holding down my Option key, pull it over, pull it on top of my pictures. And then I will resize it. And I'll grab this welcome statement and I'm going to pull it over. And we'll say CS40s. That's the name of those headphones. Go ahead and click those together. Move this guy over a little bit, and then I'm going to grab the CS40s again and that lorem ipsum, copy them over. And then maybe I could make a little buy now button. And let's make it green. Take buy now, put it on top, double click it, make it white. You won't see it for a second, but as soon as I drag it on top of the box, there it is. Let's make it a older version. And then I'm going to zoom in, and to make this a little more interesting, if I just make a little bit of an inner box here, click a new layer, get a little darker version of the green, give my gradient, and just drag down a teeny bit of a shadow. Oops. And then I'll go ahead and adjust the opacity. Merge those together. Buy now, buy now. All right. Up here, since we're on the home, they had a bar. So I'm just going to draw out a little rectangle that I can resize. And this was to make it look like that had been selected. So I will put it to there. And trim it. And we'll take the word home and make it really light so it looks like it's the one that's being engaged. That was in our links, right? So what if I, oops, no. I'll go ahead and pull its opacity back a little bit. All right. This looks very plain to me, so I'm going to start to trim it out and do a few other things to it. The word iFrogs, there's no dimension, it just kind of is sitting flat. So I'm going to go ahead and find it and click on my FX, and I'm going to do an outer glow.
Quick question.
Yes.
What did you do to find that layer?
Control click it, and it will show a little stack, and then you choose from the stack which layer you want it to go to. So if I'm over here, if I control click this, that's going to be layer 5, and I should have named it. In fact, why don't I? So we know that layer 5, wherever it is my headphones. So notice if I click this, there it is. Okay, so I'm going to click on the logo, click my FX, I'm going to go to my outer glow, and instead of being yellow, I want it to be dark. I'm going to create some depth. I want a bit of a shadow. So I go to black, I change from screen to either normal or multiply. And you see how it puts a little definition around it? I'll increase the size a little more, and I'll pull the opacity down so it's more subtle. But can you see the difference? That helps quite a bit, right? Right now, again, we're really flat, so I'm going to come over here to this layer 7. Layer 7 and layer 7 copy, I'm going to go ahead and merge them. This is our background. Oops. So I'll rename it. And If I apple click it, it gives me a selection of them. I'm going to click a layer on top and make a little bit of a gradient. I'm going to start with black, go to black to transparent, drag it down, and then I will adjust the opacity a little bit. Now, one trick I'll teach you that you see a lot on websites is a little shadow off here to the side, which they use these. I'll use it in a couple different places to create layers, almost like layers of paper, and it's a really easy trick to do. All you need to do is drag out a really thin box. Go ahead and create a new layer and fill the box with color. And in this case, since I'm doing a shadow, I do black. Deselect it and then go Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. That's going to blur up your box a little bit. Right? Click OK. Get your marquee tool. Cut it by hitting delete. Then you can come over here, line it up with your side, cut off the top where it's a little bit blurry, and you can line it up so it has a nice hard edge. Then you just have to Command T, drag it down, delete. I'm going to go ahead and hide my guides. Oops.
Clear guides or what?
I think it's under show there. There we go. So you see how I have this little shadow here now? I can adjust the opacity if it's too strong, but it creates a little more depth. Then I can Option, Shift to drag another one across, Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal, come over here, line it up, and if I want to be really cool, I can grab one, bring it over here, and this could indicate changing from one group to another. So I'll take it down. So we could have more information under here, but this could kind of be your top group of information. I'm going to extend it a little bit because it's a little faint on the one side, and then I can just cut it. So since it's just a blurry shadow, I can stretch it, skew it, do anything I want to it, and I don't have to worry about resolution. If it's too much, I'll just pull the opacity down. I could even do it again. We could have some information in here, right? You see how I'm starting to build some depth and some layers? Coming over here, this picture of the girl, it's very flat, but if I apple click it, apple click the picture, I did a bad mask there. I'm not even going to apple click it. I'm just going to drag out an approximate rectangle, make sure it's beneath her, fill it with black, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. I'm going to build a shadow, but I'm going to build a shadow that has a little more depth or dimension to it than a traditional drop shadow. Click OK. Then I'm going to Command T, and then I'm going to hold down my Command key. I'm going to pull out the corners a little bit more. Let me pull this one down here. And then maybe just expand it a little bit, and then pull the opacity back. Now you'll notice this guy is too high. So I can either cut him or I can put him lower. I'll just cut him for now because he had a white background. Jump back to this shadow. Let's name it Shadow. Pressure. Pull my opacity back. You see how that makes a little difference on her too? Still don't love this gray bar here, so let's find it. Light gray bar. FX, color overlay. What can we do with it? Is red the answer?
No.
About this darker gray. Is that better?
No.
It's better.
Dark like this? What if we... Got an idea. Let's see if it works. I'm going to drag out, I'm going to do this dark, I'm going to drag out a box down the middle, click a new layer, fill it with white, filter blur, Gaussian blur. Appletea it. You know, it looks like there's little sparkles because her shadow's over the top. I don't like that. I thought it would. Yeah, that's kind of stupid. You can put it as a reflection up here. That looks stupid too, huh? We'll come back. I don't love this area, but we're getting closer. Got this gray here. Let's darken it up just a little bit. Welcome looks dirty to me. So what if I do it white or pink? Let's move that up a hair. What if we did a little line in between these two? So we have some different sections, and that needs to go up higher than them. And then let's take a quick breather and rename everything that isn't named. So this is line. Turn it on and off. This is rollover. This is those by nows. I'm just going to go ahead and merge them. Those are by nows. CS. Whoa. Okay. So I'm going to start going through this thing. The background should be down here. I'm going to chuck that original one we were looking at. And I'm going to start to organize these. So the backgrounds together, I'm going to click those together and put them in a folder called background. And this light gray bar here, shadow. Okay, I'm going to call those top structure. These are shadows that can go into my background layer. Vertical shadow. Let me copy, paste. That's a horizontal shadow. What's that one? Chuck it. These are all part of the top structure here. This is kind of my hero area. And what did I call these ones? Call these scrollers. Copyright Kent Withridge. Actually, I like them back behind like that better, so I'm gonna leave it. This is welcome area. Call this product area. That horizontal shadow can go into it. We got links up here. Lines. Links and lines could go in one called navigation. These are product area ones. And they need to be reordered because those two cover everything else up. Whoa. Something gets pushed and then this thing just drives me crazy. Buy now, that should be in our product area. but it needs to be on top of cases and headphones. Rollover needs to go to our navigation. Line needs to go to our product area. But of course, those dirty buggers, case and headphones, keep getting in the way. So I'll move that. All right, so we've got our structure pretty good now, right? Navigation, product area, welcome statement, hero, top structure, background. Now, I could spend another 15-20 minutes and make this much, much better and start to fill things in the bottom and put a footer on it, put our little social media icons. I could come over to this document that I gave you that's a little bogus, but it will work. Where is it? Let's see, for students. Let's go to this little icon one. And do we have a little home? Actually, I like that little home better. So I could pull him over. You know, we could have like the little teeny icons up here for home and email and contact us or at the bottom. We can start to just trim it out and do some great things with it. Again, I'm not super happy with this arrow and stuff. I'd probably come in and change this quite a bit. But that's one way I would start kind of designing a site. Again, I'd be much better than what I've done for you guys here. But you can see that by keeping it organized as I move throughout, it doesn't mean that every move has to be calculated with a name and stuff, but periodically if I do that, to start to make changes and tweaks and make this better, it's really easy to do. And if I said this was the home page, but the secondary page, the hero's gone, and these move up to the top and we have more of them, it's really easy for me to do that by just turning layers or layer folders on and off. So I'm going to leave this as is for right now. Can I answer any questions for you guys? All right, completely depressed and confused. All right, let me tell you what your assignment's going to be. I'd like you to create a front page. This is the splash page, so just kind of what I've done here right now. I want it to be a website that includes one of the logos that you designed in our earlier assignments. So it's something new to you. It's something that you kind of have some colors and some fonts already established, a look and feel, right? This is only a design, so it's just going to be a PSD file that you're going to print off. No programming, you don't have to worry about slicing or doing anything like that. Make sure that you include graphics, photos, text. If the text needs to be that lorem ipsum, just type lorem ipsum into Google and it will give you some. You're going to print it out in landscape mode, so it's the same orientation as a website, and then just bring it with you to class next week. Remember, identity, consistency, navigation, theme and style, information. These are things we talked about earlier today that will help to make this website effective. If I were you, I would, again, choose the logo, theme, style, get all your colors and palettes ready and open in Photoshop, and then I'd go surf for good websites or surf for sites that you like the design of, and then kind of borrow, like I did. I didn't steal anything. I don't have the same. If you held that site and their site up, they wouldn't be the same site, especially if I kept changing it. But it's a great place to start. It gives you spatial relationship, gives you some layouts and themes that can be effective for you. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off this recording. Worst one I ever did. Peace out.